Dave from New Jersey, it's the SNL Nerds, the show where two comics from New Jersey nerd out about Saturday Night Live. I'm your co-host, John Trumbull.
And I'm your co-host, and the birthday boy, Darren Patterson.
Happy birthday, Darren!
Yay! Happy birthday to you. Is it lame that, like, I do that like, I kind of call my... like
that you have birthdays? I don't think so, no.
No, not that. It's just like, you know, like when you have to let, that feeling you have when you have to let everybody know it's your birthday. It's like, oh, it's my birthday, it's coming up, it's my birthday today. Like, is that lame when you hit a
I think
age?
it gets annoying when it's like, it's my birthday month. And it's like, okay, like, unless your mother was in labor for a full month, no, it's the month in which your birthday occurs.
Hey, you don't know that. You don't know how long my mom was in labor.
Well, look, that's why I make the exception. I mean, I think you can maybe make a case for a birthday week, you know, especially as you get further into adulthood. People have busy lives. You're not always able to get people together on the same day. So sure, you can celebrate over the course of a week. A birthday month it's just freaking greedy.
Yeah,
I think.
I think it's one of those things, like when you're a kid, like it being your birthday was like a big deal. Like everybody made a big deal about it. Everybody's like, whoa, it's your birthday. You get gifts. You get, like, you know, maybe some free gift certificates to McDonald's or something like that. Some fancy stuff, you know, a pizza party, you know, the good stuff. But like as you get older, it just becomes kind of just another day. But you still want that all those accolades and praise you got when you were a kid. You still want people to dote on you and be like, hey.
Nice. Like Patton Oswalt has a great bit in one of his albums about, like, you're allowed 20 birthday parties. I think it is, where he's like, you know, ages 1 through 10 I'm going to mangle if I try to do it, but he's like, you know, after a certain point, it's like, you know, who gives a fuck? You know, you should only have birthdays when it's like big milestones. Like, you know, when you turn 10, you know, that's a milestone. When you become a teenager at 13, that's a milestone. When you turn like 16 or 17, you can drive. That's a milestone. 21, that's a milestone because you can drink. And like when you reach a new decade, it's like, you know, I'm 24. Who gives a fuck?
Go to work.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, I think it's a very funny routine, and I think there's some truth to that. But
yeah, I can see it. Like, hey, I'm 37 years old. No one cares. Whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever.
Yeah, you can't call them to work sick for that.
Yeah. So happy birthday, buddy!
Yay! Happy birthday!
Way to not die for a year! Yay!
Yeah, I did it. I cheated death for one more year.
Yeah.
Not today, Reaper.
And as is our tradition, when one of us has a birthday and SNL does not have a new episode, we let the birthday boy pick the movie. And this year you picked The Royal Tenenbaums from Wes Anderson from 2001. So what made you want to pick this movie, Darren?
2 reasons. For one, the great Gene Hackman we recently lost, and I mean, I know people throw that word around. Oh, he's one of the greats. He's one of the goats. But I feel like for Gene Hackman, it really does apply. Like, there's like a number of fantastic movies he was in. Like, of course, The French Connection and Hoosiers are probably the 2 he's most remembered for. But like, I always thought he gave a great performance in this film and the Birdcage. Which, if there was an SNL connection to the Birdcage, I probably would have made that the movie we talked about today.
That's a very funny movie. I just recently watched The French Connection for the very first time before Hackman's passing was announced, and I really enjoyed that. That was good, and he was good in it. He's like one of those actors who, like, even if I didn't like the movie itself, he was always good in it. After he watched my housemate and I. He owns the movie Heartbreakers on DVD with Sigourney Weaver and Jennifer Love Hewitt. And I was like, well, why don't we watch that? I've never seen that. And I hear Hackman's funny in it. And he was very funny in it. He was like my favorite thing in the movie. And I wasn't too nuts about the movie, but I was like, he's great. So
Yeah, because like I know when we were talking about movies to do, like we always have to have a movie with an SNL connection.
Hmm.
You brought up Loose Cannons, which is the movie he did with Dan Aykroyd, which
Which was literally the first movie of his that occurred to me. And then you're like, what about Royal Tenenbaums? That has Bill Murray and Ben Stiller. And I was like, oh, right. Let's
that's
do that.
yeah. And then like I did a little digging, and I think I saw of course there was his final movie, Welcome to Mooseport. That's the
Uh-huh.
one that has him and Ray Romano, and I think
Ray Romano.
uh,
I'm in a movie with Gene Hackman.
fuck man. Yeah, so who else was in that movie? So it's also I know that has SNL connections as well.
Uh-huh.
Um, but then and that was his final film. But I
Yeah.
remember hearing that movie maybe wasn't the best film of his.
No, and our friend Rob Kelly, he has a podcast called Fade Out where he uh, talks all about the final films of stars and I think directors too. And you and I we guest starred on a year or two back
Right,
where
right.
we covered the last couple films of John Belushi. Um,
Mm.
Neighbors. Ugh.
Yeah, that. What was that?
Yeah. So sadly, a lot of times the great ones they don't necessarily go out on a high. Sometimes they just have a underwhelming film. I'm thinking like Sean Connery in League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and they were just
Oof.
they do that, and they're just kind of like, you know what, I think I'm done.
Yeah,
This is
that's
more trouble than it's worth.
that's a wrap.
And I feel like that was Hackman after Welcome to Mooseport.
Yeah, like after that, I was just kind of. I think I've done all I can here. I think
Yeah, yeah.
I think we're done here.
And
And
I was reading the IMDb trivia for this one, and apparently part of the reason Hackman agreed to do this film was because he was like, I don't have too many more roles left in me. I want to do
mm,
some fun stuff, and it didn't turn out to be a very great experience for Gene Hackman, and he apparently didn't make it all that great of an experience for his co-stars either. So
yeah, it was like I read about that. It was like almost like Chevy Chase esque vibes where he like I mean, well, for the first point, I know Wes Anderson really wanted him to do it, and he was really
mhm.
hesitant to do it.
Right.
And but like I'm glad he did because like it was like almost like a career defining, not career defining, but it was definitely one of the bigger roles he was remembered for. But yeah, but then I
Yeah.
read how he was really unhappy on the set. He was kind of bullying Wes Anderson and even Angelica Houston and Gwyneth Paltrow were like kind of avoiding him a lot because
Yeah.
he was just a misery on the set. And it wasn't until like Bill Murray stepped in and was kind of talked to him. You're like, hey, you need to chill out, man. What the fuck?
Yeah, because Bill Murray was had already done Rushmore with Wes Anderson, so he was kind of protective of Wes Anderson for that reason. And Bill Murray actually was talking about this recently on the Drew Barrymore show,
Mm,
and Bill Murray was being very diplomatic. This was like just after folks had learned of Hackman's tragic passing, as well as his wife and one of his dogs. God, such a sad story. And
yeah.
and Bill
Jeez.
Murray was very diplomatic in how he was addressing that. He was just
Yeah.
like, yeah, well, when you're Gene Hackman, he took a lot of young directors as like sort of young punks
Mm.
but he's like, but Gene Hackman likes pretty good movies and Wes Anderson makes pretty good movies. You put Gene Hackman in a Wes Anderson movie, you're going to get a good movie. So
Yeah, it's one of those. Yeah, but I guess it's one of those things where Gene just didn't feel like he was. Maybe at some point he just felt like he was wasting his time, and he was
mhm.
also aware of the fact he didn't have that much more time to waste. So,
Yeah.
like maybe that was it. That's why he was just kind of snapping off the way he did. But either way, I'm glad he did it because, like, yeah, he gave us one of the most memorable movies of his career for sure.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I hadn't seen this movie in got to be at least 20 years.
Mm.
And I kind of like jumped off the Wes Anderson train for a while. Um
Yeah,
it sounds like you've seen more of his movies than I have. We were
yeah,
talking about this last week.
yeah, I was looking through like all the Wes Anderson films. I kind of jumped off the train around what the Grand Budapest Hotel. I think it was like
Uh-huh.
around that time where I was like, oh, all these films kind of have the same feel to them, and like
Mm-hmm.
I think at one point I felt like I was just kind of watching the same movie over and over again, even though there were
Yeah.
different films. And I think that was it, because like with Wes Anderson, like he can make a very visually beautiful film, like the way
Yeah.
he's like so pays so much attention to detail, and like the camera shots, like they look gorgeous. But I I think the issue is like as far as like having an emotional connection, that's the thing. Like I think with Rushmore,
Yeah.
I think Rushmore had that emotional connection a
Yeah.
little
I
bit
agree.
a lot more than his movies
Yeah.
afterwards.
And
And I
he
think
did
that
Bottle Rocket too, right? Wasn't that his
he,
first one with the Wilson brothers?
that's his very first one with the Wilson brothers. Yep.
Right. I loved Bottle Rocket back in the day. I don't think I've seen Bottle Rocket since, maybe late 90s or something, but my like friend Frankie uh turned me on to that one, and loved it.
Yeah.
Saw Rushmore, loved it. And then I watched Royal Tenenbaums, and I don't know. I think at that point he got a lot more Wes Anderson-y
Yeah,
in this one.
he became like a parody of himself at some point, where it's just like, this is my style, this is what I do.
Yeah,
It's very twee, like I think you mentioned last
very
time.
twee. Yeah, I don't know if I'd go so far as to say he became a parody of himself, but he's a very mannered filmmaker,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
his stuff can feel very artificial at times.
Yeah, very much so. He's almost like a hipster version of like Michael Bay, where it's like they look beautiful, but like there's no real depth to them a lot of the time.
We should have them switch off. Michael Bay should direct the Wes
Oh,
Anderson film as a script, and the Wes Anderson should direct the Michael Bay script. Let's see what that's like.
that's the body swap film that people are waiting to see.
Yeah. Free idea, Hollywood.
All yours. But yeah, the Royal Tenenbaums came out December 14th, 2001, not too
Mm-hmm.
long after 9/11. Directed by Wes Anderson, written by Wes and Owen Wilson. Had a budget of,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Oh wow,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm a
I
writer.
co-wrote this.
I
Yeah.
wrote.
Yeah.
Wow, I wrote it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
I'm like a writer on this.
God, that still makes me chuckle. Had a budget of 21 mil, made 71 mil, and I remember this film being like a kind of a big deal. Like a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people really liked it. Like to the point where I remember like for years after, like I remember a lot of people would like, especially couples, they would like cosplay as Margot and Richie. Like for some reason,
Mm.
I always see that for like around Halloween. Like there was always this couple that would cosplay as like Margot and Richie Tenenbaum. I'm like, oh, you're a couple in real life. You know you're dressing up as like a brother and adopted sister in this. Okay.
Yeah, even like the movie goes a long way to try and justify it. I'm like, I'm sorry, I still find this a little creepy.
Yeah, it's they do definitely try to like romanticize it a bit.
Yeah.
Or
It
it's like,
like they did a thing similar to that on the Flash TV series too, where it was like Barry Allen grew up under the same roof as Iris, and he eventually ends up marrying Iris West in the TV show.
mm,
And it's like, you still grew up as brother and sister, essentially, though. I know you're not related by blood, but you had a
yeah,
brother and sisterly relationship, so it's still kind of creepy in my mind.
little bit. Little
I mean, I
how,
don't, I don't want to be too judgy, but it's a
yo.
little, you know.
It's a little, yeah. I mean, there is a porn search for that. So I mean,
I wasn't going to go there, but okay,
oh,
yeah,
you
it
weren't?
is a category. That's true. Yeah,
Oh, you weren't? Okay, well,
there's a lot of step stuff on those sites. I
mm,
hear tell. So
I have no idea what you're talking about. I've got to clear my
yeah,
browser history.
I don't go to those sites myself, but I get newsletters that report on the goings on. So
I don't know what you're talking about at all. All I do
no,
is read my Bible, pray to the Lord, and go to church.
right,
Yep.
right,
Got to clear my browser history.
yeah.
Oh wait, is my mic on? Did you hear that?
Yeah. No,
Damn.
we all did. We all did.
Well,
We really got to start editing this podcast someday.
yeah, I know we gotta get an editor here for this. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. So anyway, so this movie it's about a family called the Tenenbaums, it's called the Royal Tenenbaums. Gene Hackman plays the patriarch of the family, Royal Tenenbaum.
Oh, I see what they did there.
Yeah. See, it's a little tie-in, and he has 3 children with his wife. What's her name?
Celine.
Etheline. Yeah,
Yeah.
played by the great Angelica Houston, and they have 3 children, and then Etheline asks Royal to leave because Royal's kind of a shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. He's a bit of a son of a bitch, I believe
Yeah.
Henry calls him. I
And,
also like
and
how in the beginning of the movie they present this movie as a book, like because like the very first
yeah,
shot in this film is like somebody taking this book out the library.
right. And
Called,
they stamp it with a due date. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm surprised they didn't end the movie with that too. That kind of shocked.
Like closing the book. Yeah.
Yeah, returning it back to the library. I mean,
Well, it ends with a play version of the movie we just saw, so maybe that would have been too much. Maybe that would have been too distancing. I didn't think of that, but that's a good observation.
yeah,
Yeah,
something I thought about. And the film is narrated by the silky smooth tones of Mr. Alec Baldwin. So
that's
we,
right.
ooh,
Alec Baldwin is your narrator,
oh my God,
and
Bat- Batman, is that you?
the beginning of this movie, it hits you with a lot of exposition. Like it's like the first 10 minutes are like nonstop exposition, and it's just like, here's character X, here's what they did, here's character Y, here's what they did, and it's very much telling instead of showing, which again, kind of distancing for me as a viewer.
Yeah, like I was trying to take notes on all this, and like
Yeah,
9 minutes in, I was like damn it, it's like 4 pages. I'm only Jesus.
yeah. That's. I mean, I take you go notebook on your notes. I
I do.
take notes on my phone, which allows me the luxury of editing.
Ooh.
So yeah. So we got there was a book about the Tenenbaums family of geniuses. There's Chaz Tenenbaum, Ben Stiller, he's like a finance guy.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's a financial guy as he's a whiz. He
mhm.
bred Dalmatian mice. Um,
Yeah.
which you see a lot of that around the house throughout the movie. There's no real
Hmm.
reason. There doesn't seem to be any real reason behind that. It's just something.
Just quirky, just a bit
Yeah.
quirky. Yeah.
Uh, yeah. He's the guy who started buying real estate in his teens, and he had like a predilection for finance. And also his Royal shot him in the hand with the BB gun one time
Right.
when they were playing around.
Which I was reading on IMDb trivia, that's actually happened to Luke and Owen Wilson's brother.
Yes, yes.
And when there's a close up of Ben Stiller's hand in the movie, it's actually the other Wilson brother, Andrew Wilson, I think it was.
Yeah, yeah. I was like,
So,
why don't you just take it out? Can't you just like cut your hand and rip it
well,
out?
it was like between the knuckles, so maybe it's just too difficult to take it out, or I
I
don't know,
guess.
or
I'm.
maybe it's just like it's not doing any harm, so it's more trouble than it's worth to take it
I
out.
guess
I
so.
don't know.
I don't know.
I
I'm no.
don't know. I'm not a medical guy. There's some specific term for those people.
I'm gonna go ahead and say that's called a doctor, John.
A doctor. Huh.
Doctor. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's ever going to catch on, but
Hey man, that's stranger things have happened.
a doctor. Okay.
Doctor. Yes.
Doctor.
So we also have Margot, played by Gwyneth Paltrow.
Mm-hmm.
She is the adopted member of the family, and
Right.
Royal makes a point to mention it to everyone every time he introduces her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, this is my adopted daughter, Margot.
Yeah. Yeah. She becomes a playwright, and she disappears at one point. Did she disappear for 2 weeks or for 2 years? I forget which it was.
She disappeared for 4 weeks, for 2 weeks, and came back with half a finger missing.
Right. Right. And we find out what the deal was with that later in the film.
Right, and yes.
And lastly, oh, you're saying something else about Margot?
Well, yeah, I was gonna lead into the fact that like one time she ran away with Richie, the third Tenenbaum child, played by Luke Wilson as it gets older. But when they
Mm-hmm.
were kids, they ran away and they spent the night in the museum, which was like that's a little nod to. You ever read that book, The Mixed Up Files of was it Basil E. Frankweiler or something like that?
Yeah. I did read that book in grade school. I think most
Okay.
everybody did. Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's a nod to that, where they spent the night in a museum of natural history and like had adventures and stuff.
yeah.
That was fun.
So yeah, that's neat little tip of the hat there. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, as we said, the third Tenenbaum is Luke Wilson, Richie Tenenbaum, who is a champion tennis player, or at least he was. And he at like the height of his career, he just like suddenly chokes, and
Yeah, he
nobody
has a
really knows why. So it's very mysterious.
yes, he had like a bit of a meltdown. He
Hmm.
turned pro at 17. He was also into painting, but he didn't really develop. And they show his paintings as a kid, and they're all of Margot, which
Yeah,
is interesting. And they also mentioned that I guess he was his dad's favorite because like Royal always took him to hang out, took him to dog fights where he would
yeah.
bet on dog fights, and he would never invite Chaz or Margot. He would always just
Yeah,
invite
we
him.
also see him like shooting dice in an alleyway in the city, and
Yeah,
yeah. So
family time,
sure, sure.
father son time.
Did we say that Royal was a bit of a shit? It bears repeating.
Yes. Oh, he is. He is the pits.
And there's also the family's best friend Eli Cash, who is the neighbor from across the street, played by Mr. Owen Wilson, and he's got like a bit of a cowboy thing going on. So
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And yeah, it just turns out like the what you call like I also like the scene where because I think they showed like in the past where Royal was just talking to the kids saying, "Yeah, me and your mother are gonna be separating for a while. I don't know what
mhm.
happened. It's like it's not you guys' fault, although of course there were some complications that arose when we took on kids, but we weren't prepared for. But it's not your fault."
Yeah, you're right, right, right.
So yeah,
And even though Royal leaves, he's asked to like basically remove himself from the family. He never actually gets a divorce from Ethelene. So they're for just like 22 years they're married, but they're separated. Um,
exactly. And then they do this thing where they introduce all of the characters 22 years later, and it's
mhm.
Gene Hackman as Royal Tenenbaum, and they show him getting like a face mask or something, and then
Yeah,
they introduce the cast of characters. That was pretty interesting. I don't think I've ever really
yeah.
seen anything like that, like mid movie.
Yeah, and we got Bill Murray as Dr. Raleigh St. Clair, who is married to Margot, Gwyneth Paltrow's
Yes.
character, and he's, of course, a couple decades older than her, at
Yeah.
least probably, I guess, about 30 years older, something like that.
That
Uh,
feels right. Yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, Raleigh St. Clair, he's like the Tobias Funke of this film, I'd
big
say.
Tobias Funke vibes. Yeah, I kind
Right?
of wonder what year did Arrested Development start? That was like a little later into the 2000s, wasn't it? I wonder if that was an influence, or this was an
Mm,
influence on that.
maybe.
Yeah,
Let's
I
see.
could see it. I'm not saying like they ripped it off, but I could see the similarities.
Okay. Was on Fox from November 2nd, 2003 to February 10th, 2006. So
Okay.
yeah, this
Well, I don't know how long Arrested Development was in the development for. So
mm, the Arrested
yeah,
Development.
maybe it's coincidence. Maybe it is a deliberate homage. Man may never know. Science just doesn't have the answer to certain questions
We
yet.
don't we don't
So
have the technology. We
we
can't know for
don't.
sure.
We don't.
Yeah,
If
so
only there was some sort of technology so we could like ask Mitch Hurwitz or
oh,
Wes Anderson this question.
if
But
only. If
but
if only. We're not there
no,
yet. We're
no,
not there yet.
no. I mean, like to communicate with Wes Anderson, we have to like get a carrier pigeon and all
Mm,
that, and send it like tie a note around his leg and all that,
yeah.
because that's the only way he answers correspondence.
Yes, through Carrier or Falcon, we can get like Mordecai come
Yeah,
through and
yeah. We get the Falconer.
yes. Caw-caw! Huh.
um.
Fly,
So
Mordecai, fly.
I guess the inciting incident here is Royal is thrown out of the Lindbergh Hotel after 22 years because he's broke, so he
Yeah,
can no longer keep paying his bill.
yeah.
And
He used to be a litigator, but he was
mhm,
disbarred and briefly imprisoned, and
yes,
and no one in the family's talked to him for about 3 years.
yeah, yeah, and so we find out what's happened to everybody. Richie, the former tennis player, he's traveling alone on an ocean liner.
Mm,
Uh,
living the life.
Eli, the neighbor, has become an author, a very famous author.
Yeah, he's an assistant professor of English lit who came out with book about General Custer. I do like that one line where he's
Mm-hmm.
talking to some of the people interviewing him, where he says, "All right, well, look, everybody knows Custer died at Little Bighorn. What this book presupposes is maybe he didn't,"
Yeah.
which is like, what? What does it mean?
Sure. Yeah.
Sure.
And Chaz, Ben Stiller's character, he's been having a rough time of it. His wife died in a plane crash the year before, and he is left as a single father with his two sons, Ari and Uzi, and all of them wear red tracksuits the entire time.
Yeah, they never say why in the film, but
Nope.
like I think I remember seeing some interview. I forget. It might have been like because like I have the Criterion collection and I think in like an interview they mentioned like yeah they wear the red tracksuits because it's like a safety thing so they could be
Right.
easily spotted in crowds and like spotted at
Right.
night and so they won't get hit by cars or anything like that.
Yeah, well, according to IMDb trivia that I saw, that's what Wes Anderson told Ben Stiller when Ben Stiller asked, like, "Why am I wearing a red tracksuit the entire time?" And that's what he told him. But apparently, he just wanted to put him in a red tracksuit. So,
But all right,
yeah.
I thought I always wait. So it's just because Wes had this whim to put him in a red tracksuit.
Well, he's a whimsical guy. I
Oh,
can see that, but maybe it was a justification. Maybe it's an excuse. I don't
oh.
know, but
Oh, I like my thing better.
yeah.
Because it does make sense that he would want to, like, because he's like so freaked out and wants to keep
Hmm.
himself and all his kids safe at all times. Like the
Right.
red tracksuit for face safety, that does make more sense than rather just I just like it. It's quirky.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it could be both things, I guess. And like when they introduce Ben Stiller as the adult Chaz, he's having like a fire drill, a mock fire drill with his two sons, and they like get out in front of their building, and Ben Stiller is like, "You were too slow. It was like 4.5 minutes. We're all dead."
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Because Ben Stiller's always got to play the slightly angry guy, you know?
Yeah, like I mean, especially around this time in the early aughts, where like
Yeah.
his comedy career was like he was kind of everywhere, and he just plays a good like angsty, neurotic freak out. He's good at freaking out. His freaks out
He
funny.
is he is. I mean, I remember in that whoops, a superhero movie he did, Mystery Men. He was
Oh
Mister
yes,
Furious, and
yeah,
even when he like guest starred on Friends, he was like Rachel's date who freaked out for no reason at like really minor stuff. So
yeah,
it's just Ben Stiller plays angry really well.
yeah. He's good at angry freaking out, like something
Yeah.
about Mary, or
Hmm.
like all the other. Like he's just his freak outs are funny. He's a funny freak
Yep.
out guy.
Yep. That's what he's become.
Mhm.
And let's see. Meanwhile, the mother, Ethylene Tenenbaum, she has become an archaeologist, and she has fallen in love with Danny Glover's character of Henry Sherman, who's a chartered accountant who, like, he
Yes,
asked to marry her.
right, exactly. He asked her to marry her. I think he says like, "Oh, I'm in love with you. Did you not know that? Were you unaware?"
Yeah.
Yeah, so he proposes, and I think she says, "I'll think about it. Just let me think about it." But
Right.
one of the family's helpers, Pagoda,
Pagoda.
overhears
Yeah.
overhears this, and Pagoda's still he's almost like Royal's mole. He's
He's
still like,
loyal to Royal.
ooh,
Yeah.
wordplay, bars.
Yeah. So,
So yeah, so once he overhears this, he goes to tell Royal, quote, "The black man asked her to be his wife."
well, I mean, that's very direct. Uh, and meanwhile, Chaz gets locked out of their apartment, and so he brings his sons over to his mom's house, and she's like, "Wait, if you got locked out of your apartment, did you pack before or after this happened?" Um,
Yeah, good point.
yeah, so I guess the implication is supposed to be that Chaz got locked out or evicted from his place. They're very vague about it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, because like she actually questions like, "Why don't you just go get a locksmith?" I don't understand why are you
Yeah,
here, but like he seemed
yeah,
insistent on being there back at the house.
yeah.
Um, and then I think after this, I believe Margot
Margot.
gets
Yeah,
wind that Chaz is back in the house, and she kind of wants to come back in the house too because her
right.
mom, Ethelene, visits Margot. Uh, she said, "Raleigh says you're in this bathroom for 6 hours at a time, just in the tub watching TV. Because at this point, Margot's kind of in a rut. She just kind of
Major depression she's going through. Yeah.
yes, major depression. She smokes
Yeah.
cigarettes, which no one knows she does. Apparently she's been a
Right.
smoker since she was 12. No one's
Yeah.
known about it. She was married at 19 to a recording artist in Jamaica. No one knew
Nobody
about
knows
it.
about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like they very much play up the part that Margot, like no one really keeps tabs on Margot like that, so she just kind of does her own thing and kind of lives in the shadows in secret.
Yeah. And Bill Murray, his character of Raleigh, he's very worried about his wife. And at one point he says flat out, "You don't love me anymore." And she replies, "I do, kind of." Which is
Oh,
the response every man dreams of hearing to that
yeah,
question.
that's yeah. There's a reason you don't see that in Valentine's Day cards. I do kind of.
No, no, yeah, I do kind of. I mean, that's not good either way. That's not good if you ask a woman if she loves you, and it's also not good if you ask her if she doesn't love you. You don't want declarations of love to be attached to mild qualifiers.
Yeah, I'll be your girlfriend, I guess. Maybe.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
you're
uh,
kind of cute.
my heart's all
That's
aflutter.
yeah,
Uh,
kind of. Oh, great.
uh,
Let me write that home. Let me put that under my pillow.
yeah. Oh, I can hear the angels sing. I'm
Yeah.
floating on air.
And so we find out some of the reasons for this. We find out the audience find out that Margot is actually having an affair with Eli. So
Hmm.
it's Gwyneth Paltrow and Owen Wilson hooking up behind everybody's backs.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Having an
Yeah.
affair. All right. Royal at this point approaches Etheline because even though he's estranged from her, and even though he even says, "Yeah, I've had my fair share of infidelities, but she's still my wife, and I can't have some other man moving in on my property." So
Yeah.
he goes to talk to Etheline about it. He says he wants back in their family's life. She says no, fuck off, and he says that he's dying.
He's dying. He's got 6 weeks to live.
Right. And then, of course, that sends Etheline in hysterics, and she starts bawling and crying to the point where, like, it upsets Royal. So he's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa! Okay, you know what? I'm not dying. I'm not dying." And she just
Yeah.
lays into him and is like, "What is wrong with you?"
Yeah. Yeah. Royal again, piece of shit.
Yeah, indeed, not the best of men.
Yeah, and Richie comes home from being overseas. I guess he's just been kind of wandering the globe since his tennis career fizzed out. And he confesses in a letter to Eli that he's in love with Margot. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah, Royal he comes back and he wants to spend time with his wife and his kids. He tells the kids that he has cancer and he has 6 weeks left to live. But we just saw him in like the previous scene confess to his wife that he was lying about that. So we don't really know if he's telling the truth or if he's lying. If he actually has cancer, if he doesn't, is he dying? It's kind of vague, right?
I think so. I think he said he wasn't dying. Then Etheline
Right,
beat him about the head, saying, "What is wrong with you?" But then he's
right.
like, "Oh wait, no, no, I am dying. I am dying."
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
she's like, "Wait, are you or are you not dying?"
Right.
So I think he landed on the lie that he was dying.
I guess so. I guess that was the easiest way out for him. And he tells the kids this, and he says, "I want to set things right with you before I go." And Chaz is not having it at all. He is like, pardon the pun, royally pissed at Royal,
Heyo.
and he doesn't even want to let Royal meet his grandkids,
Yeah,
which
like I
is
think in a scene before this, we see that Chaz told his sons that Royal was dead,
yeah,
and, he's like, "Well, no, now he's really dying. He's not. He wasn't dead before."
right, right,
Yeah,
and
but like I do like the scene like how Royal is trying to sort of make amends in his own way. Like it's like, "Oh yeah, no, I really want to take you. Like for one thing, I want to take you kids to see your grandmother."
uh
And
huh,
then Richie said was like, "Oh, I haven't been there since I was 7." And Margot's like, "Well, I've never been there. No one's ever invited me." And then Royal says, "Well, she wasn't your real grandmother, so I didn't know."
Yeah, but you're welcome to come now. It's like, oh, gee, thanks, Dad.
It's like, Jesus Christ.
And then when Chaz mentions that his wife Rachel, I think it was, is also
Yes.
buried there, um, Royal says, "Who?" So he's
My
not really been as in touch with his family as he should be when he's blanking on the name of his son's late wife.
Yeah, and then he says, "Oh, she's buried out there. All right, we'll just swing by that grave too."
Yeah, yeah,
Like, what a piece of shit.
yeah. But you know what? Hackman is so wonderfully charismatic and charming. You can't totally hate the guy as much of
Yeah,
it as an ass as he is.
that's true. Yeah, like I mean, the first scene where he finally meets Henry when he's with Etheline, and of course,
Mm-hmm.
he says, and Etheline's like, "Oh, this is my good friend Henry," and he goes, "Hey, lay it on me, man."
Wait, is that not the correct way to greet a
It
black man when you first meet him?
No, you got to say, "Hey, give me some skin, soul brother."
Okay,
And
wait. Hang on. Let me write this down. Give me some skin, soul, brother.
yeah,
Brother with an
with an A, with an
with
A.
an A.
Yeah, you
Give me some skin, soul, brother. I will practice that.
hold out your hand for a high five, do a little shoulder shimmy, and
Right. Okay.
that's how the black person will know you're down.
All right. All right. And that's and then I strut and we go. That's right. We bad. Right.
Yes, that's exactly
Yeah.
it.
So it just
It's like Silver Streak. That's how you
okay.
feel.
Yes, I like this plan. I'm excited to be a part of it.
Oh god.
I gotta buy some more shoe polish.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh, I feel like I'm setting you up for something horrible, but you
No,
know,
no, this
yeah,
is gonna go great.
yeah. Let's just see
Um,
how this. Just want to see how this plays out.
yeah. Darren's like, I know I should say something, but I kind of want to see how this turns out.
This could be
um,
this could be good for the podcast.
yeah, exactly, exactly. You can still podcast in traction, right?
Sure. All you need your mouth. Yeah, you can.
Right, right. As long as I don't lose too many teeth, it's all good.
That's right.
So let's see. We also have a brief scene with Etheline and Henry where she's like still mulling over his proposal, and she confesses that she actually hasn't slept with a man in 18 years,
Oh.
which that's a long time.
Yeah, that's the whole grown ass person.
That is, yeah, that's a whole person that can vote. That's a few presidential administrations.
Indeed. Yikes.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
going back to like the Reagan years, I think. So
I think so. Yeah.
yeah,
We get some other scenes too, like Eli is hanging out with Margot.
hmm
He tells Margot that Richie wrote him saying that he's in love with her,
yeah.
which, and then like almost immediately after he did that, he's like, "Hey, don't tell Richie I told you that."
Hey,
Like,
don't don't tell her. Don't tell him I said that. You know,
yeah,
yeah.
and
You're not supposed to know.
yeah, and as he's doing this, we see that they're driving up to through some like sketchy part of town, and he's like
Uh huh.
going into some building to, he's clearly there to buy drugs.
Yes,
Yeah, we find out Eli is on the drugs.
he has a problem with the nose candy.
Mhm.
Um,
And then we also get another scene where even though Chaz doesn't want Royal to see his kids, he still
mhm,
makes an effort to go see them. So he goes to the Y, the
right,
375th Street Y,
which doesn't
and
exist in real
does
life, apparently.
does
Yeah,
not exist. Yeah, there's a lot of things that because
all
like
the addresses in this movie are just fictional.
yeah, like this clearly takes place in New York City, but they never say
Right,
it's New York, and they do things to
right.
like sort of make sure it's not. You don't see any signs of New York, like all the
There are no
cabs.
landmarks. Apparently, like in one scene, Wes Anderson had an actor stand in a specific place, so he blocked the Statue of Liberty. So
Yeah,
he's kind
they
of
really
going
went.
out of his way to not include any landmarks.
Yeah, they really did. Like even they're just running gag when everybody needs a cab. They call this like gypsy cab company, and all the cabs are like
hmm
some of those beat up, rundown cabs you've ever seen in your
They
life.
are some ghetto cabs in this movie. Yeah.
Damn, homie, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty bad. But yeah, so anyway, he goes to the 375 Street Y to see Ari and Uzi. And of
Hmm.
course, at first, we're to say, hey, I'm so sorry for your loss. Your mother was a terribly attractive woman.
Yeah. He always knows just what to say. And they're like, our dad doesn't want us talking to you. And he's like, well, but we can make this happen. Here's what you say to your dad. And they're like,
Right.
yeah, we'd like the chance to get to know him while he's still around.
I bet
And
mom would have wanted us to get to know him.
right. And then so Royal starts hanging out with the grandkids, and he starts doing rambunctious stuff, and this is probably my favorite bit of the movie, where we see them like running in traffic, and they're driving in go-karts, and he's like playing dice with them and stuff, and yeah,
Yeah, he's doing a lot of dangerous things because, like, I think it's a thing where he notices that the kids are being too overprotective, so he like,
yeah,
it's just Royal being Royal, doing wild things, like you said, like they literally run in traffic, like
yeah.
oncoming traffic, which is wow.
I mean, yeah, it's not the greatest hobby, I suppose.
No, they steal from bodegas, ride on garbage trucks.
Yeah,
They jump into pools while Paul Simon plays in the background. It's
right.
all the
Yeah,
fun stuff.
that's all the fun stuff. And Hackman is so good in this. He's like Hackman feels like a real guy to me at all times because Hackman was just so damn good and so naturalistic. And most of the other actors, as good as they are, and as much as I usually like them, most of them are just they feel like actors on a set just speaking very flatly. And it's like, I love you.
I love
I'm so passionate about you.
I love you too. Yeah, they all sound
Yeah.
like very flat and staccato. I'm imagining that's
Yeah.
because that's Wes Anderson's style and that's what he told him
Yeah.
to do. And I'm
Right.
sure he probably told Gene Hackman to do that, Wes Anderson, but like Gene
Right.
Hackman was like, "No, I'm not doing that."
Yeah,
Doing that stuff.
one of the quotes I heard from Gene Hackman was apparently, after I think a number of years into his career, he said like he only wanted to hear four things from a director: louder, quieter, faster, or slower.
Nice.
So, but he still like varied his performances wonderfully. I mean, but yeah, and I don't think this is just because he recently passed. I really think Hackman's the best performance in this. He's because he feels like a real person to me. He feels like somebody I could meet on the street and get to know, and everybody else feels like a movie character.
I would agree. Yeah, everybody else in the movie that feel like you said, like they feel kind of like they're not real almost, but like
Yeah, I mean they're very I hate using this word in a derogatory way, cartoony. They're
yeah,
kind of they're very constructed characters.
yeah. Whereas Hackman feels like the real deal, even when he's saying things to Richie in the cemetery, like, "So what do you think of this big old black buck moving in up there with your mom?" Like I was like, Jesus Christ, Royal.
Yeah, he was way more racist than I realized, than I remembered. I was just like, damn, Hackman's going there.
Whoa, whoa.
Yeah. And Danny Glover's character, he's not falling for any of Royal's shit. He figures out that Royal is faking his cancer, even though like we see him, he's occasionally bedridden. He's got like an IV tube in him, but he's like, look, if you actually had stomach cancer, you wouldn't be eating double cheeseburgers,
And
and you'd
milkshake.
be in tremendous pain and like double over. And it turns out that Henry's wife had stomach cancer, so he
Yes.
kind of knows a BS artist when he sees one.
Yeah, because like I think at this point they have Royal staying at the house, but like
Hmm.
he's like hooked up to like some hospital equipment, and even the
Right,
doctor comes in to check him out. Like they'll say, "Oh, call my doctor, Doctor McClure,"
right.
and of course it turns out Doctor McClure is the great Seymour Cassell, who was I think it was like one of the elevator operators at the hotel that Royal got hooked
Yeah,
up with.
yeah. And I love Seymour Cassell is one of those quintessential, hey, it's that guy actors, one of those great character actors. He always elevates. I think he's done a ton of Coen Brothers movies. I mean, he's been in a million things. Just got a great face, great voice.
Yeah,
I always love seeing him pop up at stuff.
yeah. He was in Rushmore too, if I'm not mistaken.
I think he was. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So Royal, like Danny Glover kind of reveals Royal's shit, and he's basically like thrown out of the house.
Yeah, because I think because Danny Glover looks at Royal's medication, and he calls the hospital to follow up to talk to Dr. McClure. Then he looks at the medication, and he's like, "Wait, is this a Tic Tac?" And it's a green Tic Tac.
And even the hospital. I almost said fatigues. The hospital clothing that Royal's wearing, it's from a defunct hospital. It's sort of like a hospital that closed in the 70s. So
he really knows how to pull a fast one.
Yeah, and they're like, "Where did you get all this medical equipment?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I had a doctor friend who set it up for me."
Oh boy!
So he goes the extra mile to make his lies convincing, I guess.
He does. But yeah, it's just. Yeah, Royal's just really just a son of a bitch. Like they even go back and they flesh out the relationship between him and Chaz a little bit more about how Chaz is the one that got him disbarred, and Chaz sued him twice.
Yeah,
because Royal was withdrawing funds from his corporations when he was a minor, and he stole bonds out of his safe deposit box when he was 14.
Right.
And he just kind of playfully kind of chuckles it off, like, hey, yeah, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
And I also like how they kind of go back into Richie's background about about the meltdown he had.
That was another one of my favorite scenes where we actually see footage of his match where he choked, and he's choking, and he loses one of his shoes, he loses one of his socks, and he just seems really distracted. And then they cut to in the stands, it's Margot and her new husband Raleigh sitting there watching him, and the commentators say "Oh, she just married him the day before." So obviously Richie was heartbroken.
Yeah, and they also get a shot of Royal in the nosebleed seats, just almost next to the eagle or statue of an eagle or something like that. That was funny. And I will say, Luke Wilson in the tight tennis shirt and long hair, not a bad looking man.
Yeah, he's a handsome man.
Yeah, I was all right, I see it.
Yeah. So Royal is thrown out, so he goes, and he can't go back to the hotel he was staying at before because he was behind in his bills there. So he goes to stay at the Y, the 375th Street Y. And then he and Pagoda, his buddy, they both get jobs as elevator operators at the hotel that he used to live at.
Wow.
So when they both realize oh, we can't even afford the Y, so we got to earn some money.
Yeah, they're both broke. They both got no money. Pretty sad. But then we'll also see a little bit more about the relationship between Eli and Richie, where Margot, I believe, confronts Richie about the letter she sent to Eli. It's yeah, you told me you loved me, and then Richie talks to Eli about it. But when I think Richie talks to Eli, he's kind of out of it because, as he says, he's on mescaline. He goes to his apartment and he's just kind of out of it. There's a stack of porno tapes by the TV.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, it's kind of close up. I think there's a scene where he's getting a drink from the kitchen, but then in the foreground it's it looks like a stack of board games. But if you look closely, the names on them say Dark and Dirty or something like that.
Oh, I must have missed that. I must have been taking a note during that scene and didn't look closely at the titles.
But no, he's got the pornos.
Because again, I don't know from porn, people. So I mean, no judgment. That's
hey, well, the night's still young.
I understand. I understand. There's a lot of it about having important relations with your step siblings, and and your step parents and stepchildren, and
oh boy,
close family relations.
Yeah, that's yeah. So dog fights. The kids go to the dog fights and whatnot.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, good wholesome entertainment.
Absolutely. The more I watch this movie, the more I was oh, This is almost kind of like a soap opera. It's like a soap
Mm-hmm.
opera for like Brooklyn hipsters almost. This movie.
Yeah, it kind of is, and it packs a lot of events into its runtime. It's under 2 hours. It's about an hour 50 minutes, and but it's a very densely plotted thing. Partly because it just hits you with all that exposition up top, where it's just like, here's this Tenenbaum, and this is his characteristic, and here's this Tenenbaum, and it's telling you all that rather than letting you discover it the way most movies do.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's still a well-made movie. But
It
it's
is
just very uniquely crafted.
a
So,
lot of moving parts. Like
mhm.
you get Bill Murray's character Raleigh in there coming
Yeah,
to the house, trying to figure out when Margot is gonna come back home, and because
right.
she's um
And he confides in Richie, like he's like, I think she's having an affair with someone, but
yeah,
I
and
don't
then
know who. Can you? And you're the only one I can turn to.
yeah, and then Richie gets mad to the point he smashes out a window with his fist.
Right,
Like, what
right.
do you want to do? You just want to punch the guy out? Bah!
Yeah, yeah. And eventually Raleigh and Richie they get a report on Margot, who's
Oh yes, they get a detective
yeah,
on the
they get a
case.
detective and they find out all her hidden history, like where she went when she left home at 12. They find out that she's been smoking all these years. They find out about her previous marriage and all her travels and all her various hookups. And we see a montage of that. And the last person that we see in the montage is Eli. So,
Yes, yes, and like yeah, then they find out. I think the one thing Raleigh says is like, "Oh, so she smokes." But
yeah,
yeah,
that's the
but
thing he reacts to. Yeah.
yeah, and
I
that
guess
all
it's supposed to be he's just such in deep shock that the smoking is the only thing he can react to.
such a cuckold. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and he says like you've made a cuckold of me.
many times over.
Yeah.
But I would say one of my favorite scenes is where Royal tries to get into a fight with Henry,
Uh
and
huh.
he flat out says, "Hey, let me ask you, are you trying to steal my woman?"
Mm-hmm.
And Henry's like, what would you say to me?" He's like,
Mm-hmm.
you heard me, Coltrane." I swear, I think me and my friends have quoted that line 100 times after we both saw that movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, "You heard me, Coltrane." It's like, "You just call me Coltrane?" No, no, I didn't.
That's cute. That's cute.
You want to talk some jive? I'll talk some jive.
Shit.
Shit, I'll talk some jive like you never heard.
Golly.
Yeah, and then they really get into it, and that's the thing that sets Henry off to really investigate and
Mm-hmm.
just kind of blow the lid off of Royal's scheme. But
Right.
yeah,
And so they find out the truth about Margot. Richie, of course, doesn't take it well. We see a scene where he's cutting his long hair and his beard, and he's
yeah,
he says like I've decided I'm going to kill myself tomorrow, and he slashes his wrists. We see they discover him in the bathroom, and
yeah. It's a pretty harrowing scene. It's like
yeah, that's exactly the word I was thinking. Harrowing. Yeah,
yeah, because like I mean, yeah, like you said, like it's him cutting off all of his hair,
yeah,
and just taking the razor out, and like you see quick flashes of his life and a
yeah.
lot of Margot, and then you just see like the blood like kind of
Right.
pour down his arms at the sink, and it's all. And what even makes it more disturbing is like it's all done to the song "Needle in the Hay" by Elliott Smith, who
Mm-hmm.
is this indie musician who also had a lot of bouts with depression and mental illness, and unfortunately, he also took his own life.
Oh,
Uh,
geez.
in
Had he already done that by this point in time?
no, he it was 2003. He
Oh,
yeah, it's he went out in a pretty gruesome way, but
oh,
it's
wow. I had no
yeah
idea.
yeah. No, I mean, I'm not a huge Elliott Smith guy, but like I know in like the Indian music scene, he's very well revered.
Yeah, yeah. I've heard his name. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
bet I know a few of his songs. And ooh,
But yeah, but yeah, but then after I believe after he committed this act, Dudley, uh,
mm-hmm.
who's the boy that Raleigh's been sort of, I guess, testing on. He's been trying to find this new, I guess, disease through Dudley. He's the one that finds
Yeah.
Richie,
Did you
and
recognize the kid playing Dudley? I'm pretty sure it was Leah Shepherd from Freaks and Geeks.
oh,
Yeah. Do
I
you
didn't
remember him?
know.
He was God, I can't remember his character name at this point, but he was like sort of the guru for the geeks, and he was very deadpan.
Oh, is that guy?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the same guy. I need to look up his name.
Oh.
Let me see. Royal Tenenbaums Dudley. I am 90% sure it's the same actor. Yeah, Stephen Lee.
Oh,
That's
wow.
him. Yeah, and so this only would have been like I think a year or two. Stephen Lee Shepard. That's his name.
Oh, wow. Good pull.
Yeah, yeah.
Good
Well, it's
pull.
because this would have been shot like not long after Freaks and Geeks, so he didn't look all that different. So,
Well
but
done, sir.
I was like, why does that kid look familiar? And I was like, oh, right, because he's in this TV show that I've watched a half dozen times. So
Yeah. Oh, wow. He hasn't. His IMDb is pretty small. He hasn't done that
he
much.
hasn't done a whole lot. No, he's yeah. I don't know
Interesting.
if he hasn't gotten cast in a lot of stuff, or he's just very selective, or what. But
Interesting.
yeah.
Okay. Wow. I did not. Well, thank you. Wow, you taught me, sir.
Well, hey, I'm yeah, I'm pretty good at like recognizing faces when I see an actor who looks familiar halfway through a movie. I can usually place them by the end of it, but
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, so then after Raleigh rushes Richie to the hospital, all the other Tenenbaums go to the hospital to
mm-hmm,
meet him there. Royal finds out, then he rushes to the hospital. But
right,
yeah, Richie seems okay. Like he's just kind of, just resting up, and
yeah.
everybody's around him, except for Margot. She's like kind of often. I've kind of noticed that
She's
happens.
off in the corner. Yeah,
That happens a lot. Like whenever there's a scene of the family
uh huh.
looking at someone or around someone, a lot of times Margot is off in the distance, just to kind of show that she's always just kind of been
Removed.
removed from the family, which I think
Yeah,
is good.
yeah. Because because Royal in particular never made her welcome. Because
Right.
he's always introducing her as the adopted child, and he like not inviting her to the cemetery and stuff like that. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just yeah.
Very much
So
so. So yeah. So of course we, Chaz tries to say some words to him, and
hmm
Richie tells him that he wrote a suicide note after he regained consciousness, and
right,
Chaz wants to read it, but I think it's back at the house, and it's like, well, could you paraphrase it for us? Is it
yeah.
dark?
Is it dark? And he's like, well, yeah, it's a suicide note. So
Yeah, and so while they're in the waiting room, that's where Raleigh lets Margot know that he knows everything, and
hmm
he just kind of walks out on her and leaves her, and
hmm
she's kind of very despondent. That's when the mom finds out that,
in most other movies, this would be a time for a character to react to something.
right, like
But everyone's so damn restrained in this thing. It's just like, oh, okay, I
eh,
guess they're not really acting terribly different than how they acted before. But again, that's just the West. It's a conscious style choice. So
it's a choice. It's a
yeah,
choice.
I can't criticize it too hard. But it just, I guess the most I could say is it doesn't speak to me in a big way.
Yeah,
I think Wes Anderson style, you either love it or you hate it.
it's a very acquired taste, I'd say,
It
for
is.
sure.
It is. Yeah. So,
Uh,
he's just very stylized.
yes, very much so.
So
So
Richie checks himself out of the hospital and he goes back home to the Tenenbaums place. And when he gets there, he sees Margot, who's sitting in his tent where Richie has been sleeping,
right.
and they kind of bond. He shows her his scars, which is
Oh,
I'm squeamish enough that I was just like, oh my
it is.
god,
It is. That was unnecessary.
yeah, yeah. And the two of them confess that they love each other. They kiss. Uh, but then Margot says, I think we're just going to have to be secretly in love with each other and leave it at that, Richie.
So yes, I don't. Yeah, the movie kind of leaves it at that. They don't really,
Yeah.
because I guess the topic of getting with your stepsister or adopted sister
Yeah. I mean, not
is there any?
technically incest, but still a little.
Uh,
Ew.
yeah, there's no real right answer for this, so it's just they're just like,
Yeah.
let's maybe we'll just sidestep this for now.
Yeah. Yeah. And Richie's bird, Mordecai, comes back.
Right after Richie goes visits Royal about and to talk to
Right.
her about his feelings for Margot, and he's like, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
He really doesn't have any. He's like, I don't know what I could tell you. I wish I had
Yeah.
more to offer.
Yeah, and we see Richie. He released his what is it? A falcon? Is it a
Yeah, Falcon.
okay? And he releases this bird earlier in the film, and then it comes back. But he's like, I'm not sure this is the same bird because his feathers are a lot whiter. And apparently, during the shooting, the original Mordecai a bird got kidnapped and somebody was holding it for ransom and they didn't have time to wait for the bird to be recovered, so they got another bird that did
Wow.
look different, and that's why they comment on it in the movie, which is wow, that's wild.
So that person that held the bird for ransom, what are they going to do now with that Falcon?
I don't know. I guess they just got a free falcon. I don't know.
Free Falcon.
Just free falcon
sweet.
Kidnapping. Yeah.
Pretty sweet deal. It's like a ruthless people type of situation where it's like, all right, what do we do with this person we kidnapped then?
Yeah. I don't know. So then we see Richie and Royal. They go to take Eli to get some help for his drug problem. They go over to Eli's place, and he's having a little coke party.
Yeah, as you do.
As you do.
Yeah, and then Eli, I think Richie hug it out like he knows about Margot and him,
right?
And then he's like, yeah, you know what, man, I do have a problem. I appreciate this. I'm gonna go pack my things. Yeah. So he goes to the next room to pack his things. Pagoda looks out the window and is like, oh, there he goes. And then,
because before that, it seems like the easiest intervention ever. And Eli also confesses that like he always wanted to be a Tenenbaum. So
yeah, that's pretty obvious.
Yeah, because he was very close with the family and grew up with them and all that, and was maybe more beloved than some actual members of the family. So,
you're not wrong.
But at this point in the movie, we're getting the sense that Royal seems to be sincerely wanting to change and want to make things right with his family.
Yeah, that's the thing. I kind of wish I'd seen like why he wanted to make that change. Like what was the impetus of him like truly wanting to be a better person and like wanting to be in his family's lives and
I don't know. I want to say Richie's suicide attempt, but he'd already gotten the job before that, so he's already starting to turn things around. So I don't know. It is a little oblique. It's kind of left up to the individual viewer to decide, I suppose.
Because he does start doing genuinely nice things. Like he actually takes flowers to Rachel's grave to put on her and put them on her grave. He actually asks Ari and Uzi if they want to go, but Chaz doesn't let them. He actually takes Margot out for ice cream, introduces her to people as his daughter instead of adopted daughter.
Oh yeah.
And he's like he's making genuine strides to be nice. He actually has
to be a better person. Yeah,
to be a better person. Like he actually has the divorce papers written up, and he tells her Ethylene where to sign and everything. And he officially divorced. And he says, yeah, like I didn't understand what you saw in this guy at first, but now I get it. He's everything I'm not. He's a good
and then when he's walking away, he's getting on the bus. Ethylene says, so wait, are we divorced now? And he says, well, they just have to process the paperwork. And he also says, and do me a favor, take back Pagoda, because he's a good person and he deserves another chance.
Yeah, so he's actually doing things that's like, oh, this is what you should have been doing.
He's doing things for other people, not just for himself. He's not self-serving anymore. He's developing some empathy.
What a radical concept.
I know.
But yeah, I wish I could have seen like why, but
I guess they just didn't want to spoon feed us too much.
Yeah, I guess so.
Maybe that I don't know. I'm not. There's probably things I'm missing in this, and there's probably some huge Wes Anderson fan listening to this and just be like, oh, these guys just don't get it.
Did you not see the Easter eggs, man?
Yeah. On your 20th time, it's obvious that blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Okay.
Check my Reddit thread. It's all there.
Okay, you're right. Hypothetical Wes Anderson fan I just made up in my head. You make some good points.
Oh, dear.
So. I just lost an argument to an imaginary person I just made up 30 seconds ago.
I lose fights to imaginary people in my head all the time.
Yeah, this feels like something we should examine.
I should probably see a doctor.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, no time to get into the rest of that. We've got a podcast to finish.
That's right.
Our mental health will have to wait, damn it.
Take a back seat.
Yeah. So we cut to Etheline and Henry's wedding.
Yeah, we see Chaz and Henry bond over the fact that they're both widowers, which is nice. Margot's actually trying to quit smoking.
Yeah.
And like it seems like the family is trying to actually be better people and whatnot. They're trying to connect and unite.
Yeah. And then Eli comes he comes in a roaring car, painted face. His face is painted like he's at a football game or something.
Yeah, it looks like the Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah, he kind of does.
And I love how they don't even explain it. You just leave that to your own imagination what he got up to.
Yeah, he's just spiraling somehow. But he skipped out on his own intervention.
Yeah, but like he's actually like speeding straight down the street in a car.
Right.
And we see Ari and Uzi tying up their dog Buckley outside, and he's headed right for them. And then, but luckily, Royals is able to snatch up the kids in time before Eli Smith crashes the car in front of the house.
Yeah, we never see the car crash though. It's just we see the speeding car. We cut to inside the house. We hear the crash. People react, and then they come outside, and then the car is already wrecked. And it's like that's a bold directorial choice there.
I'm just gonna go ahead and assume it just wasn't in the budget.
Yeah, maybe it's a budget thing. Maybe there was just being creative. I mean, you can get very creative with within your budgetary limitations. You know that it does force you to be creative.
Right. So. Yeah, but I do like how the car hit the building so hard that that Eli ended up in the living room of the house.
Yeah,
he crashed through the window, and the first thing he says, "Hey, where's my shoe?"
Yeah. So it's just like how Richie lost his shoe during the tennis match, I guess. Parallels.
Oh. Wow, symmetry.
Yeah.
It's like poetry. It rhymes.
Yeah. So Eli sadly hits Buckley the dog. Royal saves his grandkids, and Eli and Chaz both say that they need help.
Yeah, because I think Chaz sees that his kids almost died, but luckily Royal saved them. He sees that Eli was the cause of this. And, of course, Ben Stiller does what he does best, flips out and freaks out. And he chases Eli all around the house, chases them into the backyard, and he, like, physically throws him over the wall and screams and hollers.
Right.
And everybody's like, hey, Chaz, you okay, man? And then he's like, oh, wow, maybe I went a little too far with that.
Yeah. But Eli and Chaz end up kind of bonding, and they're both kind of sacked out in like somebody else's backyard. We find out in a couple minutes it's like the back of a embassy or something. So
they have to like go and get them, and then that's when Henry and Royal go, and while they're doing that, Royal kind of apologizes. They're like, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm kind of an asshole, and
but I hope you can forgive me. And Henry says, I don't think you're an asshole. I just think you're a son of a bitch. Which I guess that's better.
I think so.
Yeah, I guess it is. So
I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like he's making amends. He's making things better. The fire trucks come to check out everything. He ends up buying the Dalmatian off the fireman and gives it to Chaz and the boys as a replacement dog. And
by the way, I love the name of the firefighter's dog is Spark Plug. That's a great name for a dog.
Fantastic. Love it.
That's A+ dog name. Yes, absolutely.
Way to name that dog.
Yeah.
But Chaz is like says to him, wow, thanks. That's actually really nice of you to do. Thank you.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's been a rough year, Dad. And it's finally Chaz kind of letting down that wall he's had up and being, just being closer to his dad and being okay with that.
Yeah, he actually opens up and confides
Yeah.
in his dad, and then we have just sort of this extended epilogue, and it's Alec Baldwin comes in, narrates, and kind of tells us what happens to most everyone.
Yeah, Margot produced a new play based on her
Right,
life.
right,
I think it stayed open for like a couple weeks.
mm-hmm.
Raleigh promotes his new book. Eli went to rehab. Richie now teaches tennis at the Y. And yeah, Chaz and Royal and the boys are all hanging out now,
Mm-hmm.
hanging off the side of garbage trucks as you do.
Yeah,
And then they quickly say that Royal had a heart attack at 68. And
yeah,
like then they show that he was rushed to the hospital and Chaz was with him in his
yeah,
final moment, and Royal
and
dies at the end.
yeah, and we see Chaz is like really broken up, and honestly, I had totally forgotten that Hackman's character died in this. I was
Really?
just like, yeah,
Oh wow.
yeah, that hit me hard.
Yeah. It's
It'd been 20 odd years since I'd seen this, so I'd forgotten that, and I was just like, oh shit, this is a
yeah.
little
Close to home.
rough to watch. Just not too long after Hackman's real life death.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. And then they cut on the in the cemetery where they bury Royal. No one spoke at the funeral. We see Chaz, Ari, and Uzi in black tracksuits. Ari and Uzi do a 21 BB gun salute.
Right, and his headstone says, what does it say? It said like Royal saved his the lives of his entire family.
I have it. Royal O'Reilly Tenenbaum died tragically rescuing his family from the wreckage of a destroyed sinking battleship.
Sure. So what a character, man.
Yeah, and yeah, then it just leaves. We end with all the cast of characters walking away from Royal's grave as a
Hmm.
nice little Van Morrison song plays in the background.
Right. And that library book still overdue.
Yes,
Never
still
returned
over.
in time.
Yes, nope, never
What the hell,
returned.
movie?
Oh, um, yeah, I think this movie still holds up. I think it's still pretty great. The soundtrack is a banger. I was
Yeah, it's a great soundtrack. There are some incredible songs. They were like they play two Rolling Stones songs in that scene between Richie and Margot in the tent. They play
yeah,
Ruby Tuesday, and I'm forgetting the name of the other one, but it's like the song that was right before Ruby Tuesday on that Stones album, and I was like, oh wow, this is really good. I don't hear this song a million times in
yeah. That's
movies
one
the
of
way you do like Ruby Tuesday.
Yeah, that's one of those deep cuts. But
Hmm.
yeah, but great soundtrack. Had some Clash in there. Got
Yeah,
Police and Thieves. Got some Paul Simon in there.
we had some Hey Jude at the beginning.
Yeah, got some Ramones. Got some Nick Drake.
Yeah,
Oh, and I think the song you were thinking of is called "She Smiled Sweetly."
that's the one. That's the one.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Got some Nico, some Velvet Underground. It's a great soundtrack,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
yeah, I think it's still a pretty strong movie. I like it touches on some nice themes about how, all these kids were like child prodigies, but they all kind of crashed out after a certain age,
yeah,
and they never really kind of lived up to their potential or whatever the potential they thought they had, and like how do you deal with that?
yeah.
Also, themes of family and how do you make it up to the family you kind of screwed over and whatnot. So it's I yeah, you can after seeing this again, you can understand why it became sort of the phenomenon that it did.
Yeah, at the same time, I still kind of admire it at a distance. It's more of like an intellectual admiration for the movie
Yeah,
than one that I get caught up in the characters or feeling, because it's just a very it's kind of emotionally cold, you know.
yeah, I would agree. Like like I keep going
Yeah,
back to Rushmore. Yeah, Rushmore had way more emotion. Jason Schwartzman definitely gave a lot more feeling to it
yeah,
in that
yeah.
role, and like I feel like if this movie had some more of that emotional connection that like
Some more of the
Rushmore.
heart of Rushmore.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it needs more heart. It definitely needs more heart. It has the visuals down pat, but it just needs more heart.
yeah.
Because like if it had more heart, this movie would be like a home. It would have been like a straight up home run. I feel like.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I can't like 100% love this movie, but I do kind of intellectually admire it. But I think Hackman is just doing
Mm.
incredible work here, and that guy was just always so damn good, you know?
No, absolutely. I mean, is this one of your favorite Hackman movies? Like, oh yeah, we never got into it with you. What are some of your favorite Hackman
Well, I mean,
performances?
I'm a comic book geek, so I think the first movie I must have ever seen
Mm,
Gene Hackman in was Superman the movie, where he played Lex Luthor, and
right, right.
I still think he's wonderful in that. Like that version of Lex Luthor, it's not much like any version from the comics, but because it's a much more comedic version. But Hackman was such a good actor; he was still able to project an air of menace in it. And so and plus he's so funny, and Ned Beatty is so funny, and Valerie Perrine is so funny.
Mm.
Um, so that's always going to be one of my favorites, and because that's the first one. A Hackman movie I revisited just this last week was The Conversation from
Oh,
1974. Have you ever
nice.
seen that one?
I think I saw it for a college class years
Yeah,
ago, just for like a film class.
incredible movie. It's like Francis Ford Coppola did it between Godfather Part One and Godfather Two, because like Godfather was just this huge success. It gave him the cachet to make this movie, and Hackman's this surveillance expert, Harry Call, who records this conversation in a park between this young couple, and he's been hired to record them, and he starts to think like, I think these two are in danger, and he gets, because it's like a 70s conspiracy thriller type of thing. He gets caught up in, it's far more involved than what he thinks. And oh, what great. And Hackman's just so damn good. He's like this just restrained, milk toasty kind of guy.
Right.
It's like unlike any other character he's played. He's so good in that. I mean, what about you? What other Hackman movies do you love?
Other Hackman movies. I mean, like I think we said the Birdcage.
Yeah,
I don't know, Get Shorty. I liked him in that.
haven't seen Get
Uh,
Shorty in a long time. I need to
it's
revisit that one.
it's
Yeah,
been a minute. Yeah. I haven't seen. There's another movie I haven't seen in forever. Crimson Tide. I remember him being really good in.
yeah. I've been thinking about rewatching Crimson Tide. I remember liking him a lot in that, and him versus Denzel Washington, and just the two of them throwing
Yeah,
sparks against each other.
just like two titans going at it.
Yeah,
Um.
and I know Quentin Tarantino was one of the folks who did like rewrites on that.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
Quentin Tarantino, like in his early days, he did some script doctoring, and you can kind of pick out the parts he wrote.
Yeah.
Like when they're referencing the Silver Surfer, it's like, okay, yeah,
Okay.
this is a Quentin scene.
You see a woman's feet. He's like, all right, that's
Yeah, yeah.
why is
you
this
know
woman?
when
Why is this woman
when
barefoot?
suddenly the conflict between them turns racial, I'm like, okay, that's Quentin. That's Quentin. He can't help himself.
Classic Quentin.
Yeah.
I mean, Unforgiven. That's another classic one he was
Yeah.
really good.
Won his second Oscar for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he won a Golden Globe for this film, but yeah, like,
Yeah. And he won for the French Connection. I saw that recently for the first time. That was terrific. I still
yeah,
need to see the second French Connection movie, the French
ooh,
Connection 2.
okay.
Um,
I mean, he had that role in Young Frankenstein as blind man, but that was like a
Hilarious.
pretty
Hilarious. I was
fantastic.
going to make espresso.
But yeah, just off the top of my head, those are some of my faves. Like
Yeah.
he's such a damn good actor. He was one of the best.
He was great. I mean, I've literally never seen him be bad in a movie.
Mm,
I've seen not so great movies with him in it, but he's always good in them. You know,
yeah, absolutely.
he ironically enough, he never hacked it out.
Ha ha!
You know,
I see what you did.
he always gave it his all. And I mean, even though he hasn't done any movies in a long, long time, I'm gonna miss him. It's just
Yeah,
sad to think that there's not going to be any more Gene Hackman.
yeah, it's a shame. So, I mean, folks, go check out all these movies we recommended or have seen. If you haven't, if you're not familiar with the oeuvre of Gene Hackman, make yourself familiar with the oeuvre of Gene Hackman.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with
Mm,
most any of his movies. I'm going to be seeking out more Gene Hackman movies the rest of this year, I think.
absolutely,
So
he lives up to the hype. So,
yeah,
R.I.P. Good sir, R.I.P. Mr. Gene Hackman.
yeah. So I guess that's about it for this week on the SN Nerds,
Yeah,
or the SNL Nerds. Since
that's
I
us.
should probably get the name of our podcast right.
Yeah, that's the end of our podcast. Thanks again for listening, everybody. As always, you can follow us on Blue Sky at SNL
Hmm.
Nerds. You can donate to our Patreon at non-productive.com. Check out our YouTube page, non-productive.com. And as always, you can follow me on all the social medias at Darren Credible. That's Darin Credible.
And you can follow me on all the social medias at Trumbull Comic. That's TRUMBULL and the word comic. I'm on the Blue Sky. I'm on the Instagram. I'm on the Letterbox. So yeah, go check me out in those places. So
yeah, go do that. Yeah.
And next week, it's a little up in the air. We don't know. As at the time of this recording, SNL hasn't announced when they're coming back, so we got a couple possibilities, but it might be a little premature to say what we're doing, right?
Right. Yeah, we got something. Yeah. We got something in the work that we think is going to be the one, but we'll keep you guys waiting until we finalize those plans.
Follow us on the Blue Sky, and and you'll find out there. You'll be the first to know.
Yeah, you can pester us there and that's what are you doing? What are you doing? Are you doing what I think you're doing? What is the next episode?
Yeah. Yes, and why don't you do this thing instead that I just picked out?
Yeah.
And we'll be like, okay, chill out. You're coming on a little strong. Yeah. We need boundaries. Come on.
Exactly. Whoa. Yeah. No means no.
Yeah. But anyway, but if you have suggestions for something you'd like to see us cover on the show, a movie starring an SNL alum that we haven't done before, we'd love to hear it. Yeah, let us know what you want to hear. The summer's coming up, so we're gonna keep on going during the summer hiatus for SNL. So let us know what you'd like to hear us talk about.
Yeah, send in those requests now, man. We take all requests. Absolutely.
We do. Mm-hmm. So, so we'll see you next week with something else cool. But until then, nerds out!
This has been a non-productive media presentation. Executive producer, Frank Hablawi. This program and many others like it on the Non-Productive Network is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives license. Please share it, but ask before trying to change it or sell it. For more information, visit non-productive.com.